Coming up tonight on our news, the fourth coronavirus case confirmed. Businesses react to emergency measures, plus COVID-19 driving taxi cabs out of business.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm VAUGHNIQUE. Topping news tonight, the country has confirmed its fourth case of coronavirus. The news came in a daily dashboard released by the Ministry of Health this afternoon. Health officials say this new case is connected to the first three cases. Meanwhile, 10 people are in a quarantine facility. The increase in cases comes 2 days after the Prime Minister announced the second and third cases. Those persons reportedly live in the same household as a 61-year-old woman who tested positive for the virus on Sunday, becoming the first coronavirus case in the Bahamas. Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands has said health officials expect the number of cases to increase in the coming days. There are more than 258,000 coronavirus cases worldwide and more than 11,000 deaths. More than 87,000 people have recovered. Businesses across the island adhering to emergency measures put in place by the government to prevent the spread of coronavirus. With the exception of grocery stores, pharmacies, service stations, and a few others, most businesses from the malls and coffee shops kept their doors closed today. Giorgio Bain takes a look.
The COVID-19 virus is continuing to impact businesses here in New Providence. This once bustling area in the center of downtown that was just packed with tourists just a week ago is now empty. If you drove around the island today, it was evident that business owners took the Prime Minister's emergency powers notice seriously. As our news team traveled the island, malls, liquor stores, restaurants, shopping complexes, and jewelry stores were completely shut down. Doors and windows were covered with shutters, and inside stores downtown, we could see that shelves and showcases had been emptied. We walked the empty sidewalks on Bay Street, where we met SHAWN FOWLER and his co-workers closing the BREITLING shop.
There's nothing much we could do. We just have to relax, follow the government protocol as far as staying home, and just wait for this to blow over.
Fowler couldn't say how long the shop's doors would be closed, but he said his plan is to hang tight and stay close to family members.
Well, I guess this, when you talk about for the rainy days, whatever you have put up, just when you have to really make it stretch, make it work, stick close to your family members, if you have those. And I guess just stay put.
The music bounced off the empty walls in the Greek Islands restaurant Friday afternoon. Tables and chairs that were once filled with a hungry lunchtime crowd now sit empty as restaurant owner Rebecca LISGARIS holds on to faith.
Me and Kirkland come in here every day along with my dad and one staff member in the kitchen trying to survive.
Greek Islands was the only restaurant open in the downtown area, but LISGARIS said she is depending on bank employees to come in for lunch.
It's affecting us tremendously. We have a high rent. We have staff. I was able to send two people on vacation, thankfully, but I'm here depending that the banks and the financial services like Omni and MoneyGram, people that are still have to come to work, that they could come for breakfast and lunch.
With only one staff member on at the time, LISGARIS could not say if her doors will remain open much longer.
If this is how it continues, I don't know, because people are now not spending any money because no one knows how long this is going to go. I'm hoping that after the 11 days of the lockdown, people still come out, so I'm still trying to keep optimistic, positive, and I'm hoping that it could go on for another month without having to shut my doors completely.
Only a handful of businesses are exempt from the emergency powers list. They include businesses licensed to provide security guard, life and health insurance brokers and agencies, wholesale bakeries, hardware stores, credit unions, and the Arawak Port Development Company. That's in addition to stores already listed by the Prime Minister yesterday, like food stores, pharmacies, banks, and service stations. Reporting for our news, I'm Giorgio Bain.
Meanwhile, coronavirus is driving away business in the taxi cab industry, which is feeling the pinch after cruise ships halted their business and air travel decreased significantly. Some drivers say this is the toughest that has ever been for them. Giorgio Bain also has that.
Taxi drivers lined up outside the British Colonial Hilton said this has been one of the toughest weeks in their business in a very long time. Following the decision to suspend cruise business for 30 days, taxi drivers say they have seen a drastic dip in business numbers, and now a curfew and ban on certain business is bound to impact their livelihood even more.
It's like a tornado hit, but you know, we're trying to weather the storm, but it's really rough.
2 jobs a day. Sometimes you be 4, 5 hours. Last night I been 5 hours before I got 1 job. Only was 2. 1 Paradise, 1 Cable Beach.
But I had 2 jobs so far for the week. And that was yesterday. I'm waiting for my first one today.
Ivan Taylor Jr., who has been in the taxi business for 40 years, said this is the worst he's ever seen it.
No, this is the slowest in all my time. But I thank God I got what I really achieved for was a little shelter for my family.
So how will these taxi drivers make ends meet? Kim McVie, who has depended on her taxi income for 15 years, said despite saving for a rainy day, her savings are already taking a major blow.
It's rough, you know, you have some savings aside, but you see it dwindling, you know. So hopefully we can get some assistance from the government, you know. You save, but you know, you have your commitments, and so you just have to take it one day at a time.
Whatever she wants, then I'll take it home day after day. And so now the month is coming, so it's going to affect us badly.
Well, my daughter helps me and my son, so on that side it's not too bad.
Taylor said despite the drastic impact on his pockets, he understands why the government is taking the necessary steps.
In one sense, it's a long wait. Sometimes you get 2 jobs a day. If not, then you go back home. That's how the system is. It's a little painful, but what more can you do? They are safe in their country, so we got to be safe here. I'm proud to hear what the Minister of Health been saying and various others.
Meanwhile, Eleanor Bain said despite the low numbers, she's still doing her part to sanitize and prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus.
I have my sanitizer, I have my Lysol spray. At least I always was using that even before this came around. I always drive around in my Lysol spray and my sanitizer. So I'm protecting myself. Every time I get a chance to go wear water and soap, I use that, wash my hands.
Reporting for our news, I'm Giorgio Bain.
The Progressive Liberal Party has accused government of overreaching with some of the temporary measures that took effect this morning. During a news conference at party headquarters last night, opposition leader Philip Davis asserted parts of that emergency order appear to be rushed and contradictory.
Many of these regulations are a clear overreach with no benefit.
Hours after the Prime Minister announced that a curfew would be imposed across the country tonight, and all businesses, with some exceptions, would have to suspend operations for 11 days, the opposition leader said he is concerned that the emergency orders took effect in a heated rush and may have unintended consequences that are adverse to the public.
If you shut down the public transport system, how are many of the essential workers going to get to and from work? The gas station attendants, those who work in the food stores, the hospitals, etc. Also, just as 10 members can attend a church service, why can't 10 people attend a civic organization meeting? At the end of business hours, all of these people will go home to their families. How will this stop the spread of the virus?
The curfew will be imposed each night from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Exceptions may be approved by the Commissioner of Police. Davis insisted there is nothing to suggest that Bahamians need to be coerced into following directives by the government. He said the opposition accepted the Prime Minister's invitation to be part of the decision-making process and make recommendations on how to fight the spread of coronavirus. However, he said that did not happen before a curfew was imposed and business closures ordered.
It is a matter of regret that the Prime Minister promulgated these measures, to which we have had an opportunity, not had an opportunity, to lend our voice and to provide our views on the appropriate initiatives. As we see it, the measures are inherently contradictory and may pose more challenges than providing solutions to the ultimate goal of protecting our people.
Davis questioned the rationale behind ordering that certain businesses close while leaving others open.
Why, for example, keep construction sites open? It is unrealistic to think that in such an industry, which is hazardous at the best of times, that people will be able to keep to themselves 3 to 6 feet apart. Why keep hotels open?
He said he remains committed to offering advice to the government and renewed his call for health officials to conduct widespread COVID-19 testing.
They must do so in order to act on empirical evidence.
In other news, a man was shot dead outside of a home in Albatross Road off Stapledon Gardens this morning. According to the police report, 3 men were standing outside around 3 a.m. when a silver vehicle pulled up. A gunman reportedly exited that vehicle and shot one of the men before fleeing the scene. EMS personnel were called in, however, they were unable to revive the man who was pronounced dead on the scene. Investigations continue. Members of the Haitian community are being encouraged to come forward and report any COVID-19 symptoms regardless of their immigration status. A group of Haitian pastors and community leaders held a news conference today to try and spread the message of the curfew and emergency orders. Jerome Sawyer reports.
One of the things that the Prime Minister has told me to tell the people not to panic. At the same time, they must abide with the law and follow the rules.
And do not be afraid to come forward if you're showing symptoms. Those are the critical messages that the United Haitian Community Front want to resonate within the local community of Haitians here in response to the COVID-19 spread. Pastors, along with Human Rights Bahamas and leaders in the Haitian community, spoke to those with and without immigration status on Friday through the local press. Following a meeting with officials of the Ministry of Health, Pastor Edward St. Fleur played a critical role in helping to frame the most effective messages. As early as Tuesday, Stephanie St. Fleur of Human Rights Bahamas began visiting Haitian communities to push the message of proper sanitation as a main precaution.
You really can't find sanitizers, you can't really find Lysols and the sprays. So I showed them and I suggested to them that they get the bleach, and they can get like the gallon water, and they can actually put like a 1/3 cup of it in the water, and they can use that as sanitation to clean their hands and wash their hands.
The plan is to reach as many Haitians as possible through the printed flyers, large WhatsApp groups, and people within the communities known as gatekeepers. The South Beach Clinic has been identified to receive those in need of treatment. A Creole hotline number at 809-2864 has been set up to answer any questions and report suspected cases. Reporting for our news, I'm Jerome Sawyer.
The National Health Insurance Authority has accelerated the introduction of its telehealth platform in a bid to prevent the spread of the virus and avoid crowds at hospitals and doctors' offices. Jasmine Brown has that angle.
Those NHI officials announced today that their telemedicine program has been fully launched in a bid to help fight the COVID-19 pandemic. National Health Insurance Managing Director Graham Whitmarsh made the announcement at NHIA's headquarters on E Street. Whitmarsh says the goal of the telehealth program is to limit in-person medical interactions, and that's a big deal because health officials want to keep doctors' offices and hospitals as clear as possible.
The medical staff in hospitals, as they get patients who have been unfortunate enough to be infected with COVID-19 and have to be hospitalized, we want them to be able to focus on that care rather than treating individuals that may have very mild symptoms and who the best advice is that they should quarantine themselves and monitor at home. And so we're really supporting those patients who are not in the hospital, which is going to be the vast majority of individuals that are unfortunate enough to get the infection.
So far, 11 of the 16 public clinics in New Providence have introduced telehealth. He said the remaining clinics will be switched on in the coming days.
Of our 80,000 beneficiaries, approximately 30,000 today have their care managed using the electronic health record at 16 clinics. And of those 16 clinics, 11 have turned on telehealth ahead of where we had originally planned because of the pandemic. The other 5 remaining clinics will be switched on over the coming days, meaning that 30,000 of the NHI beneficiaries will have access to telehealth. Telehealth will be provided to NHI beneficiaries free of charge. We have also turned it on for the private patients of these clinics, but there may be a charge for these private patients.
3 people have tested positive for COVID-19 in the Bahamas so far. However, health officials said they expect more people to test positive for the virus in the coming weeks. Whitmarsh said NHIA's telehealth platform should assist with preventing the spread of COVID-19. He added NHIA will continue to roll out its platform and increase the number of clinics involved. He noted that these measures will greatly benefit those on the front lines of the outbreak. He explained how people can take advantage of this online program.
For individuals who are either a private patient seeing a doctor at those clinics or an NHI beneficiary at those clinics, they can access it using a smartphone and a tablet. They'll have to download an application called HEALOW, H-E-A-L-O-W. That information can be gained by calling the clinic as well. They download that app. That app allows them to set appointments and actually conduct the visit. The visit is done securely. It's done within the technical architecture of the electronic health record. They can also do it by logging in online on a computer. But what I would suggest is an individual of any one of those 16 clinics who thinks that they'd like to get care by telehealth should call that clinic and they'll get instruction on how to receive care.
The NHIA has sent home the majority of its staff, allowing them to work from home. They have also sterilized their premises and required anyone entering the compound to use hand sanitizer. Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Still to come on our News, LPIA sees a 50% drop in arrivals, plus hear from a pregnant woman in isolation. Stay tuned.
So the project really pays itself back.
Correct.
They set up
at the conference.
More the school.
As a journalist, I always have to focus on the facts, and sometimes that means going to investigate for myself. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. right here on RTV.
As governments implement new travel restrictions to combat the spread of coronavirus, Lynden Pinling International Airport has seen a nearly 50% drop in arrivals. Berthany McDermott reports.
Like all businesses, the spread of the novel coronavirus is negatively impacting Lynden Pinling International Airport as well. Vice President of Marketing and Commercial Development John Knowles says the airport has seen a significant drop in arrivals since last weekend. No doubt a result of heightened fear over the spread of the novel coronavirus.
Last weekend, our arrivals were down by more than 50% of what we had forecasted for last weekend. March is certainly the busiest travel month of the year at LPIA, and so we saw those arrivals beginning to fall off from last weekend. And certainly throughout the course of the week, arrivals have continued to fall off, with some airlines reporting load factors as low as 15 to 20%.
Now, when we arrived at the departure terminal here at LPIA, we met long lines at popular international airlines, no doubt a result of that Level 4 travel advisory issued by the U.S. Department of State calling their residents to come home. That Level 4 travel advisory advised U.S. citizens not to travel internationally and to arrange for their immediate return to the United States, unless they are prepared to remain abroad for an indefinite period. In light of this, airport stakeholders were asked to be fully staffed through the weekend to accommodate the temporary influx of passengers.
Given the State Department's Level 4 do not travel advisory to Americans, we have had to anticipate, or we anticipate that we will see the departure of the remaining U.S. Passengers who are still vacationing in Nassau, and those departures likely will happen over the coming days.
Knowles added that Canadian Airlines also saw long lines, as those airlines will temporarily cease operations as of tomorrow. Her comments come one day after Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis announced new emergency measures and discouraged domestic and international travel. Knowles explained that this will further impact travel at the airport, but stressed that the airport will remain open.
No matter what, the airport has to remain open if flights are flying, and even open if only for emergency flights. So that's key. Airport employees who have to come into the airport and who may have to travel to the airport within the curfew are certainly advised to have their airport ID because, of course, we have early morning flights. Employees have to be here by 4:30 a.m.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
A mother set to deliver her second child any day now says she has no fears about being admitted to hospital amid the coronavirus pandemic. NIKKI BOWE is 39 weeks pregnant and said she's been taking necessary precautions for weeks now, even missing a relative's funeral and skipping out on family gatherings. She spoke with Our News from isolation in her home and said she's confident in her doctor's ability to keep her and her little one safe when the time comes.
I know that the hospitals have taken the precautions to ensure that their patients or whoever comes to the hospital is not at risk. And so I'm pretty much at ease in that regard. My doctor has also been very reassuring. I think we're all concerned, and he was actually prepared to take the baby on Wednesday, but we opted not to. He was going to induce labor.
Bethel said even before schools closed, she decided to homeschool her son as she is a former educator. She said the only person allowed to leave her house is her husband, and she only ventures outside of her home for doctor's visits.
I'm at ease. I'm just looking forward to delivering a healthy baby. We don't know what we're having. And so that's what I'm looking forward to, delivering the baby, being able to come home in the comfort and safety of my home. Continuing that social distancing. Of course, I will have no visitors, so family and friends will have to see the baby via photos and video. But I'm thankful, and I appreciate the fact that the government has been proactive and they're not taking this lightly, and they're putting in such stringent measures to make sure that we're all safe.
And CIBC First Caribbean advising the public that it will temporarily adjust its hours of operations at all branches. As of Monday, the bank will open Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. until further notice. Clients are encouraged to use CIBC First Caribbean's online banking, mobile app services, and ATMs. And still to come, finance officials promise no higher taxes or borrowing despite the economic fallout from COVID-19. Stay tuned.
So the project really pays itself back.
Correct.
They set up
at the conference.
More the school.
As a journalist, I always have to focus on the facts, and sometimes that means going to investigate for myself. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. right here on RTV.
You're watching Our News. Welcome back. Acting Financial Secretary MARLON Johnson reiterated today a promise made by Finance Minister Peter Turnquest, who insisted government has no intention of borrowing more money amid the financial fallout from COVID-19. Johnson also shot down concerns about a possible hike in taxes. Jasmine Brown reports.
The global COVID-19 crisis is projected to have a significant impact on the local economy, a fact that is not lost on officials at the Ministry of Finance. Acting Financial Secretary MARLON Johnson says while the economy will take a blow, there is no need to panic.
The economy has gotten smaller. But I think everybody understands why. I mean, it isn't that it's any policy issue. It's that we have a real and present threat that is disrupting our economy. And so for the question for us is how do we position ourselves to ride out the worst of the storm and to position ourselves to be able to flourish when it gets back.
In the House of Assembly on Wednesday, Finance Minister Peter Turnquest revealed the projected economic fallout from the pandemic could be as much as $1 billion. Despite the potential $1 billion hit the government could take, Turnquest said there will be no new borrowing to satisfy the shortfall, but a continuing reliance on existing fiscal contingencies and retooled expenditure. Johnson reiterated those comments while also insisting there are no plans for new taxes.
I think the DPM has been really clear on that there are no plans to increase tax. And of course, given where the economy would be over the next few months, it's unlikely that the government will give consideration to that, because the important thing is stability at this stage. We want to make sure that we understand people are going to have less money, and the economy is going to be strained. We're always looking at our fiscal plans and making adjustments. But I think for the near term, as the DPM has said, there's no plans to raise any taxes.
As for what's to come, Johnson insisted there are tough times ahead, but there are some positives.
I think for us, the key sentiment is that we realize that this is inescapable, that we're going to see a really, really significant economic blow. The tourists will stop coming for some time, and hopefully that they'll return over a matter of months, but it may even linger longer than we anticipate. The key message for us is really individually, what can we do? And so what I've been saying all along is that we really have to do as much as we can to tighten our belt. The good news with this, if there is a silver lining, is that unlike a hurricane, the buildings aren't going to be washed away and destroyed. The resorts are going to be there. Bahamian character, we have, like it's been said, we're an indomitable group of people. Our personality and our culture will still be here. And so when it gets starting, we'll start back up, and hopefully there's a massive pent-up demand for travel, and we'll catch ourselves. It will take some time to arc back up, but hopefully next year this time we'll be in a very, very different position, a much more positive place.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Still to come, how the virus has impacted high school athletics. Stay tuned.
So the project really pays itself back. Correct. They set up
at the conference.
More the school.
As a journalist, I always have to focus on the facts, and sometimes that means going to investigate for myself. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. right here on RTV.
And finally tonight in news, high school athletics on hold for the moment. Marcellus Hall tells us more.
With school being closed for the foreseeable future, school athletics has obviously been affected as well. With that in mind, Government School Sporting Association President Pharrell Davis is now faced with the task of how to approach things moving forward. Speaking via telephone, Davis says the first order of business will be waiting for the all clear.
As soon as school resume, school open up on the 14th, and all is well, our plan is to continue with our calendar, with our last two sports being soccer, softball/baseball. We have to make some adjustment to do the sports in terms of, I guess, to the time and to the national exams approaching in May. We might have to go tournament style play for both of the last two sports. So we're working on that. As soon as school open, our plans is to begin.
According to Davis, the association is hopeful to not have to cancel the athletic season completely, especially as the students look forward to the competition.
I think the kids really miss, sports, so we're trying to get back in the swing of things as soon as possible once we get the okay from the Department of Education pertaining to after-school sports. But we'd love to continue. We'd love to finish the year out. But we're praying that things work out, that we could do that. But the plans is we will make an adjustment to the schedule in terms of having tournament-style play, so we can get these two last spots in.
Now, of course, it all hinges on how soon things can get back to normal, which most of the country, if not the world, is hoping is sooner rather than later. For our news, I'm Marcellus Hall.
And thanks for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm VAUGHNIQUE. Have a good night, everybody.